Can you assess the president's mental fitness for office?
I had absolutely no concerns about his cognitive ability.
Can you explain to me how a guy who eats McDonald's and Kentucky Fried Chicken and all those Diet Cokes and who never exercises is in as good a shape as you say he's in?
It's called genetics. I don't know.
Is there anything you're keeping from us for privacy reasons?
I can promise you there's absolutely nothing that I'm withholding.
All right, here to react to yesterday's show is psychoanalyst Dr. Gina Loudon. Doctor, thanks so much for coming on. It really was a spectacle. I mean, it was an hour of everybody pretending to be a doctor, asking a doctor why he thinks this way.
Yeah, if you asked the average psychologist out there probably to analyze the press yesterday, they would have great concerns about their sanity, I'm afraid. It just looked like they had whipped themselves into such a frenzy that maybe they were the ones not being very rational. I don't think we've ever seen this sort of scrutiny of any other president.
Well, look, you look at the report, good cognitive test, good cardiac health, very credible physician here. I mean, it seems like this conversation would be dead at this point, but it's not.
Yeah, and it's driving the press crazy. You look at 30 out of 30 on the cognitive test. I mean, he scored very well, and he did this, don't forget, voluntarily. There's no requirement for a president to do this sort of cognitive testing, but he did it because he wanted to reassure the American people, because this president has nothing to hide. He's proven it over and over again. And then you just look at him even releasing his gastrointestinal test results. I mean, who does that? We've never heard of anything like that. But again, I think that we can move on from this conversation, or rather we could if the press hadn't whipped themselves into such a frenzy, and talk about something that is actually pertinent to policy and moving America forward at this point.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, the press loves this story because they don't like the president, and I mean, they think he's boisterous, and he's, you know, he's unfiltered, he's not PC at all, and he's not anything we've ever really seen in a president before, and it drives the press mad because they like things the way they understand it, but that doesn't make you nuts. It just makes you a different kind of personality, and it makes you somebody that's shaking things up in a very traditional role, and he's not being traditional at all.
Yeah, when they're more concerned about him drinking a Diet Coke or eating a cheeseburger than they are about him using tobacco or alcohol, you have to get concerned about the people asking the questions at some point, because it just doesn't look normal. It doesn't look stable for people to grill someone like this. And then when the question line went to, you know, is he on some sort of drugs? He doesn't do drugs or alcohol. He doesn't even, you know, smoke. He never has. Most people will have a glass of wine with dinner. This president hasn't even done that. And the doctor was clear that it is because he has lived such a healthy life that he is such a healthy man. So the press would do themselves a favor to move on, because I think the American public is watching this spectacle going, yeah, we can see who's crazy, all right.
So there's a tweet that we have from an NBC reporter, and it says, quote, seeing a lot of skepticism over the idea that President Trump weighs only 239 pounds. Would he step on a scale in public to prove it? Your reaction?
He probably would, because this president seems to know no bounds in terms of just being very transparent with the American public, which is what his supporters and his base have come to love about him and be so loyal about. But I don't think that's necessary. And again, I think that the press would do themselves a very professional favor if they would move on. They've diminished their own credibility here as they've whipped themselves into this frenzy. It doesn't look good for them, and it plays right into the hands of an amazing victory for President Trump in 2020.
Okay. Well, yesterday certainly was exciting to watch, interesting to watch.
It was a spectacle.
It was. Thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure. Good to be with you all.